The size of the midsummer bottom water hypoxia in the Gulf depends on river discharge, nutrient loads in the spring, and weather conditions within the area. What occurs in the Mississippi River mainly depends on the nitrate-nitrogen load concentration during the spring and summer. This creates a mapping of the hypoxia, which is measured every year during the time span of mid to late July to early August. There is a variety within the information because of the timing and variables that constrain the reliability of measuring during the summer. This is the reason why we use information from year to year to determine the size of the Gulf, not only a single year's information. The Mississippi River Gulf of Mexico Watershed Nutrient Task Force was established in the fall of 1997. This group was established to understand the cause and effects of hypoxia in the Gulf of Mexico region. They try to coordinate activities in order to reduce the size, severity, and duration of hypoxia. They coordinate activities to support the nutrient management in this region in order to reduce the effects of hypoxia, such as restoring habitats to trap and assimilate the nutrients. In 2001, the task force released the 2001 Action Plan, a national strategy to reduce the Gulf hypoxia. Their goal for the year 2015 is to reach a size of under 5,000 kilometers of the hypoxic areas in the Gulf of Mexico. Here is a graph from the Louisiana University Marine Consortium from 2013. Here we can see that the hypoxic areas in the Gulf of Mexico have been sporadic and that their goal for the coming years is to reach under 5,000 square kilometers of the hypoxic areas. Okay, so in 1975 and 1976, 2 cruises were conducted specifically to map the areas of low oxygen along the Louisiana coast. These cruises identified small disjunct areas of hypoxia. With more studies, more reports of hypoxia have emerged. The first continuous and consistent study of the extent of hypoxia of the Louisiana and Texas continental shelf began in 1985. With the funding from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, National Ocean Service, researchers from the Louisiana University Marine Consortium, otherwise known as LUMCON, and Louisiana State University initiated the research that has been happening till this day. Over the years, the research team has expanded their knowledge about the hypoxic areas within the Gulf of Mexico. Here we can see a picture of one of the first cruise ships that went to the Gulf to explore more about the hypoxic areas.
Hi, I'm here to talk to you about the different perspectives regarding the dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico. I'll be speaking from the point of view of 4 groups: environmentalists, farmers, those in the tourism industry, and those in the seafood industry surrounding the Gulf of Mexico. So first, environmentalists feel that the biological effects of the dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico are negatively impacting the fish populations. Low levels of oxygen are causing fish to have to relocate to new environments. However, some fish are not able to move fast enough and are not able to escape the dead zone before they suffocate, and therefore they die. And you can see some examples here. Here's a large group of fish that was affected by the dead zone. Obviously, they're now dead. Here is another picture of a population of fish that has washed up on the beach of the Gulf of Mexico. Next, I'd like to talk from the farmer's point of view. Farmers feel that fertilizers are a vital part of the farming process. They feel that fertilizers provide plants with essential nutrients, and without these nutrients, farmers risk their plants dying and their overall crop yields decreasing greatly. And here's an example of one of the fertilizers that farmers use. Next, I'll be speaking from the point of view of both the tourism and seafood industries in the Gulf of Mexico. One statistic that regards both those businesses is these industries combine to generate more than 600,000 jobs and $9 billion in wages annually. So obviously these two industries are very important to this area. The tourism industry is negatively affected by the dead zone because much of the tourism is generated by the promise of seeing the diverse wildlife that exists in the Gulf of Mexico. And since fish populations are being killed off by the conditions brought upon by the dead zone, tourism has been decreasing recently. And you can see some pictures here of some of the things you can see in the Gulf of Mexico. And you can see here dolphins swimming here too. So obviously, seeing wildlife is a big part of being a tourist. The seafood industry in the Gulf of Mexico is especially important to the overall U.S. seafood industry because about 40% of the fish in the U.S. seafood industry can be traced back to the Gulf of Mexico. And one can make the connection that the conditions caused by the dead zone are causing fish populations to decrease. Therefore, prices of fish, especially in the area surrounding the Gulf of Mexico, has increased steadily over the past few years. Another statistic that I find really important is that scientists have estimated that the conditions caused by the dead zone have cost the seafood and tourism industries in the Gulf of Mexico about $82 million per year. So just some small changes can help these industries recover from the conditions that the dead zone has inflicted upon them.
The biggest problem or cause of the dead zone is the use of fertilizers because they produce a ton of phosphorus and nitrogen. Using fewer fertilizers and limiting runoff of excess nutrients from farmland would immensely help the hypoxia problem in dead zones. The downside of the solution is that industrial farmers rely a lot on these fertilizers since the agricultural industry is so huge. Intensive farming, as seen in this picture, has higher productivity and fewer laborers, but its combination of fertilizer, pesticides, heavy machinery, and other modern farming techniques harm the environment, creating fertilizer runoff and animal waste. As you can see in this map, there is definitely a relationship between fertilizer use and dead zones. The countries that use the most fertilizer, like the United States, Japan, China, and the UK, have dead zones surrounding them. A more logical solution to consider could be lowering the use of fertilizer or only using as much as the soil can absorb. Using natural resources of nutrients like compost, manure, and farming methods such as contour cropping and no-till farming could make a difference. These methods of farming would also reduce runoff because they allow soil to absorb more water and nutrients. Another problem with the agricultural industry are animal feedlot operations. These feedlots produce waste, so farmers should try to control this waste. If more farmers switch to raising cattle on pastures instead of feedlots, this would not only be a healthier and more humane way of raising cattle, but it would help reduce waste and help reduce the dead zone.